Hello class. Today we're going to be talking about adding and subtracting real numbers. This is a process that I can summarize in a couple of rules based on sign. The way it goes is any time you have the same sign repeated in an expression, either plus plus or minus minus, you get a positive sign or a plus. Anytime you have opposite signs, either a plus minus or a minus plus, you get a negative sign. So why am I saying that? Well, real numbers can be positive or negative. So you might see something like 3 plus 2, or you could see something like 3 minus a negative 2. Either way, both of these scenarios are the same because you're adding a positive number, which gives you 3 plus 2, so that's 5. And here you're subtracting a negative number, so that in effect is adding positive number. And again, we get 5. Now, the way you visualize this or conceptualize this is by looking at a number line. So I'll draw two number lines here. Let's just say 0 is somewhere around here. We have, let's say 3 is, I don't know, here. And what we're doing when we add a positive 2 is we're moving this 3 two spaces to the right. So 1, 2. And that spot right there is going to be 5, which is what we found. And then we could draw a similar one. And then we can put 0 right here. And if we put a 3 right here, when we subtract a negative, so subtracting, we usually go to the left. If we were to subtract 2, we'd go 1, 2. But that's not what we're doing here. We're subtracting a negative amount. So instead of moving to the left, we're going to move to the opposite direction twice. And again, we see that we end up at 5. So these two operations are in effect the same thing, and you can either look at it through the sign swapping or through the visualization of a number line. And this is basically all you need to know for adding and subtracting real numbers. Now, what I'm going to spend the rest of the time going over is just terminology that you should get used to. The first concept I want to talk about is the additive inverse. So the additive inverse is what you add something to get 0. The multiplicative inverse was what we multiplied to get 1. So a times a to the minus 1 is equal to 1. And that's what we call the multiplicative inverse or reciprocal. Here the additive inverse is going to be what we add to get 0. So it's a similar concept, except we're looking for 0 instead of 1. And you can think of this also as 0 being the multiplicative 0, I guess it's called. I actually don't know. But every time you multiply something by 0, you get 0. It's kind of the same thing except with addition and subtraction. And in fact, we can extend this principle and connect it to the sign swapping. The additive inverse of a negative number is just the positive number a. So here we see again that minus and minus is really just a positive sign. So this is just another thing that we can look at. Next, I'm going to talk about complementary and supplementary angles. Okay, so here we have the definitions for complementary and supplementary angles. Complementary angles simply mean that the two angles add up to 90 degrees, and supplementary angles are simply two angles that add up to 180 degrees. The 90 degrees being a straight edge or a right triangle, or a right angle, as some would say, not triangle, and the supplementary being a straight angle or a straight line. And this is the last concept that we cover in this material. However, I do want to make one additional point, and that's simply that when you have a expression and you're plugging in a negative number, you have to be careful of the sign. And here's why I say this. So let's say we have 2 minus x. Okay, if x is 5, then 2 minus 5 is equal to -3. And that's all good. All right, we understand that. But if x is equal to -5, when we do 2 minus x, we have to be careful about these parentheses. So we need to add parentheses around x, so that way we can see that this negative sign and negative sign right here become a positive sign. So this is going to wind up being 2 plus 5, which is equal to 7. So be careful that whenever you see a negative, or even when you have 2 plus x, that when you have a negative solution or value, that you're plugging in the sign as well as the number. So in this case, it'd be 2 plus minus x, which is equal to 2 minus 5, which is equal to 3. So I just want to make you aware that this is something that's important and will come up probably a good bit as you navigate through these sections. The same rules apply to transferring word problems to equations and things like that from the last section. These are just the new topics that I wanted to cover and talk about. If you have any questions, obviously you can ask them in the comments down below or just shoot me an email. Either way, I hope y'all are having a good one, and I'll see you next time.